She was 17, trapped in a blizzard with a dead phone and designer heels, when the homeless boy with nothing but a torn jacket did something that would change both their lives forever. He gave her his only blanket and walked into the storm to find help. The first thing you need to understand about being Sofia Castellano is that nothing is ever your fault and everything is fixable with money. That's what I'd believed for 17 years anyway. Right up until the moment my Mercedes skidded off the icy road into a ditch 15 miles outside of Hartford, Connecticut, in the middle of the worst blizzard the state had seen in 20 years. Come on, come on, come on, I muttered, jabbing at my phone screen. No signal. Of course there was no signal. We were on some back road my GPS had insisted was a shortcut to my best friend Madison's ski lodge in Vermont. A shortcut that was now a frozen death trap. The car was dead. The heater was dead. And I was wearing a cashmere sweater, designer jeans, and Louboutin heels because I'd been too busy arguing with my father about my credit card limit to dress appropriately for a winter road trip. My father, Dominic Castellano, CEO of Castellano Industries, worth approximately $4.2 billion, and currently furious with me for irresponsibly spending $50,000 in 1 month. As if $50,000 meant anything to a man who made that every hour. You need to learn the value of money, Sophia, he'd said that morning, his voice cold with disappointment. You need to understand that wealth is a responsibility, not a toy. Then maybe you should have thought about that before having a child you were too busy to raise. I'd shot back, immediately regretting it, when I saw the flash of pain in his eyes. My mother had died when I was 5, cancer, quick and brutal. My father had responded by building his empire even bigger, as if enough money could fill the hole she'd left. I'd been raised by a succession of nannies, tutors, and boarding schools. The credit cards were his way of showing love. My spending was my way of screaming for attention. But none of that mattered now, trapped in a car that was getting colder by the minute, watching snow pile up against the windows like a white prison. I tried my phone again. Still nothing. The battery was at 3%. Okay, Sophia, think, I said aloud, my breath forming clouds in the freezing air. Someone will come looking for you. Madison knows you're on your way. Your father's assistant knows your route. Someone will notice you're missing. But would they? Madison was probably already 3 glasses of champagne deep, assuming I changed my mind. My father was in meetings all day. Tokyo, then London. His assistant would assume I was being a spoiled brat, ignoring calls intentionally. I could die out here, and it might be hours before anyone even started looking. The thought sent panic clawing up my throat. I'd never been truly alone before. Never been in a situation money couldn't immediately solve. Never been. A face appeared at my window. I screamed, jerking back so hard I hit my head on the driver's side window. A boy, maybe my age, maybe a year or two older, stood in the blizzard, snow coating his dark hair and thin jacket. His face was gaunt, cheeks hollow, but his eyes were alert, concerned. He knocked on the window. "Are you okay?" His voice was muffled by the glass and wind. My heart was hammering. I'd heard stories. Girls alone on dark roads. Predators who took advantage. But something about his expression, genuine worry, not threat, made me crack the window half an inch. "I'm fine," I lied, because showing weakness to strangers was something I'd been trained against since childhood. Your car's in a ditch and it's -5 degrees outside. You're not fine. He was shivering violently, I noticed. No gloves, no hat. His jacket was torn at the shoulder, inadequate for this weather. "Do you have signal? Can you call for help?" "No signal. Phone's dying." He nodded like he'd expected that. "This road doesn't get plowed until morning. You can't stay here. You'll freeze." "What do you suggest?" It came out sharper than intended, defensive. "I'm not exactly dressed for a winter hike." He looked at my heels through the window, and something flickered across his face. Not judgment, something sadder. "There's an overpass about a quarter-mile back. I've been staying there. It's not warm, but it's out of the wind. Better than here." "You've been staying there? You're homeless?" Observant. No bitterness in his voice, just fact. "Look, you don't have to trust me, but that car's temperature is dropping fast. In an hour, maybe less, you'll get hypothermia. You can risk it here, or you can come with me to shelter. Your choice. I looked at him. This stranger with nothing, offering help to someone who had everything. In the back of my mind, every warning I'd ever received about stranger danger screamed at me to stay in the car, lock the doors, wait for rescue. But my fingers were already numb. My breath was coming in shaky gasps, and something in his eyes, tired, yes, but honest, made me make a choice I'd never made before. I trusted someone I had no reason to trust. Okay, I said, pushing open the door, but if you murder me, my father will hunt you down. Noted. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. I'm Elijah, by the way. Since we're probably going to die together, seemed like you should know my name. Sophia. I stepped out into the blizzard and immediately stumbled in my ridiculous heels. Elijah caught my arm, steadying me. Those shoes are going to kill you before the cold does. They're Louboutins. They're useless. He shrugged off his jacket, his only jacket, and held it out. Here. You're already freezing. I'm used to it. You're not. Put it on. The jacket was threadbare and smelled like smoke and cheap soap, but when I put it on, there was a residual warmth from his body that made me want to cry with relief. Can you walk? He asked. In these shoes? Not well. Without warning, he bent and scooped me up, carrying me like I weighed nothing, despite the fact that he was clearly malnourished. What are you doing? Saving your life, princess. Try to enjoy it. He started walking back up the road, fighting against wind that felt like it was trying to push us into oblivion. Talk to me. Keep yourself alert. What's your story? Besides the obvious rich girl, bad decisions narrative, despite everything, the cold, the fear, the surreal nightmare of this situation, I almost laughed. That's pretty much the whole story. You? Poor boy, worst decisions. He was breathing hard, struggling against the wind. Got kicked out at 16. Been on my own for 2 years. Why'd you get kicked out? My stepdad didn't like that I stood up for my mom when he hit her. Decided I was the problem. His voice was matter of fact, like he was describing the weather. Mom chose him, so here I am. The casual devastation in those words hit me harder than the cold. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm better off. And at least I got a fun blizzard rescue out of the deal. He was making jokes while literally carrying a stranger through a deadly storm, wearing only a thin shirt because he'd given me his jacket. This boy with nothing was saving the girl who had everything. The overpass appeared through the snow like a concrete miracle. Elijah set me down gently in a sheltered area under the bridge where the wind couldn't quite reach. There was a sleeping bag, a backpack, some cardboard arranged as flooring. His entire life, fitting in a space smaller than my walk-in closet. Welcome to my palace, he said, gesturing grandly. Then he started to shake, real, violent tremors that made his teeth chatter. Elijah, I'm fine. Just need a minute. But he wasn't fine. His lips were turning blue. I made a decision. I unzipped the sleeping bag, his only source of warmth, and opened it wide. Get in. That's mine. Get in. We'll share body heat. It's basic survival science. He hesitated, and I saw it then. The same uncertainty I'd felt earlier. Trust didn't come easy to either of us, but the cold was an enemy we could agree on. Okay, he finally said, but no funny business, princess. You literally carried me through a blizzard. I think we're past formalities. We huddled together in the sleeping bag, and I felt how thin he was, all bones and sharp angles. How long had he been out here? How many nights had he endured cold like this alone? Why did you help me? I asked quietly. You don't know me. You could have just kept walking. He was silent for a long moment. About 6 months ago, I was passed out behind a dumpster. Hadn't eaten in 3 days. Some lady who worked at the restaurant came out, woke me up, brought me food and a blanket. She didn't have to. Probably wasn't supposed to. But she did. He shifted, pulling the sleeping bag tighter around us. She told me, we take care of each other when we can. Pass it on. So I am. By risking your life for a stranger? You say that like your life is worth less than mine. I say that like you have less to spare. Maybe, but we've all got one life. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, when you're frozen to death in a ditch. His voice was getting drowsy, hypothermia starting to set in despite the sleeping bag. Besides, you didn't look at me like I was garbage. Most people do. You look scared, yeah, but not disgusted. That's rare. My throat felt tight. I'm sorry people treat you that way. Not your fault. That's just the world. He was shivering against me. Tell me about your world, Sofia Castellano. Distract me from the fact that I can't feel my feet. So I talked. About my father and the money that was supposed to fix everything but fixed nothing. About boarding schools and empty mansions. About having everything except what mattered. Sounds lonely, Elijah murmured. Says the homeless boy living under a bridge. Yeah, but I chose this. Sort of. You're trapped in a prison made of gold. That's worse. How is that worse? You're literally freezing. But I'm free. No one controls me. No one expects anything. I own my life, even if it's a shitty life. His words were slurring slightly. You're owned by expectations, by money, by who your father needs you to be. That's its own kind of prison. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't, because he was right. We fell silent, sharing warmth and breath in a cocoon of orange nylon, while the blizzard raged outside. Somewhere in the darkness, I fell asleep against this stranger who'd saved my life, feeling safer than I had in years in my father's mansion. CTA, for one, if you were trapped in a blizzard, would you trust a homeless stranger who offered help? What would make you say yes or no? Share your honest thoughts below. No judgment, just curiosity. I woke to weak sunlight and silence. The kind of silence that only exists after a massive snowfall when the world is muffled under a white blanket. Elijah was still asleep beside me, his breathing shallow and rapid. His face was pale, almost gray. Elijah? I shook him gently. Hey, wake up! His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Cold, he mumbled. So cold. Panic spiked through me. I'd slept warm, well, warmer, in his jacket and sleeping bag. But he'd had only a thin, long-sleeved shirt, and he'd given me most of the sleeping bag. He'd nearly frozen to death, keeping me alive. Stay awake, I commanded, rubbing his arms vigorously. Don't you dare die after going through all that trouble to save me. That would be terrible dramatic irony. A weak smile. Wouldn't want bad writing. I looked around desperately. The storm had passed, leaving behind snowdrifts that completely blocked the road. My phone was dead. We were miles from anywhere, and Elijah needed medical attention. Think, Sophia. You're not completely useless. You've had every advantage, every education. Figure it out. Fire. We needed fire. Do you have matches? A lighter? Backpack. Side pocket. I found a cheap plastic lighter and nearly cried with relief. Now I needed fuel. I looked at my designer purse. Leather, expensive, and most importantly, flammable. I'm going to start a fire, I told him, and then I'm going to find help. No. Dangerous. Stay here. You literally carried me through a blizzard last night. My turn. I gathered everything burnable, cardboard from his makeshift shelter, some fast food wrappers, and yes, my $3,000 Prada purse. I built a small fire near the opening of the overpass, far enough to be safe but close enough to provide warmth. The purse caught beautifully. My father would have been horrified. I'd never been prouder of an expensive purchase. With Elijah situated near the fire, wrapped in the sleeping bag, I assessed my options. I'd lost my heels in the snow last night, so I was barefoot. My phone was dead, and I was I looked at a half-buried mile marker, 14 miles from the nearest town. I'm going to walk to town, I announced. Get help. You'll freeze. No shoes. I looked down at my bare feet, already red from cold, then at Elijah's feet. He wore worn sneakers, at least 2 sizes too big, but better than nothing. Give me your shoes. What? No? Elijah, you're not walking anywhere right now. I am. I need your shoes more than you do. They're all I have. And you gave me your jacket last night. Please, let me do this. He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in his expression. Recognition, maybe. That I was serious. That I was actually going to do this. Socks too, he said quietly, and take the lighter. There's a gas station, maybe 8 miles north. If you can make it. I put on his socks, threadbare, with holes but warm from his body heat. and his shoes. They were too big, but I tied the laces as tight as they'd go. I'll be back, I promised. With help, with food, with everything you need. Sophia? He caught my hand. Why are you doing this? You said we take care of each other when we can. I can. I squeezed his hand. Stay alive. That's an order. Bossy, even in a crisis. You have no idea. I stepped out from under the overpass into a winter wonderland that would have been beautiful if it wasn't potentially deadly. The road was impassable, buried under 3 feet of snow. But to the side there was a tree line, and beyond that I could see houses in the distance. I started walking. The cold hit immediately, brutal and unforgiving. Elijah's socks and shoes helped, but my legs were bare below the knee, my jeans offering minimal protection. My fingers, even in my pockets, were already numb. But I thought about Elijah, who'd endured this every day for 2 years, who'd survived worse than one walk through the snow. If he could do it with nothing, I could do it with his shoes and my privilege. I walked for what felt like hours, but was probably 45 minutes before I reached the first house, a small ranch with smoke coming from the chimney. Heaven. I pounded on the door. Hello, please, I need help. The door opened to reveal an elderly woman in a bathrobe, her eyes going wide at the sight of me. Good Lord, child, get inside. She pulled me into blissful warmth. What happened to you? Car accident, last night. There's a boy, he's hurt, hypothermia maybe. We need... Ben, she called over her shoulder. Call 911, we have an emergency. Everything became a blur then. Paramedics arriving, questions I barely had the focus to answer. Heated blankets and hot chocolate that I couldn't even drink because my hands were shaking too badly. The boy, I kept saying, under the overpass, Elijah. Please, he saved my life. You have to help him. We've got a team heading there now, a paramedic assured me. You did good getting help, real good. I was loaded into an ambulance and we headed back toward the overpass. I saw them bringing Elijah out on a stretcher, still wrapped in his sleeping bag, the small fire I'd built still smoldering nearby. Is he okay? I asked frantically. He's alive. That's what matters. You both got lucky. Lucky? I'd spent 17 years thinking luck was something you bought. Turns out it was something a homeless boy with nothing gave away freely, even when it cost him everything. The hospital was chaos. Within 2 hours of my admission, the private wing had been secured, my father's personal physician had been flown in from New York, and I was in a private room that looked more like a hotel suite than a hospital. My father arrived 4 hours later, bursting through the door with an expression I'd never seen before. Raw terror, barely masked by relief. Sophia! He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. When I got the call that you were missing, that you'd been in an accident, I'm fine, Dad. I was surprised to find I was crying. I'm okay. You could have died. His voice cracked. My God, Sophia, you could have frozen to death in that car. If that boy hadn't... He pulled back, looking at me with eyes that were suspiciously wet. Where is he? I need to thank him. I need to... He's here, in the hospital. But Dad, he doesn't have insurance. He's homeless. They're going to treat him and then probably discharge him back to... No. My father's expression shifted to something I recognized, the ruthless businessman who'd built an empire. Give me his full name, I'll handle it. Dad, what are you going to do? Whatever needs doing. He pulled out his phone, already typing. You said he saved your life? He did. He gave me his jacket, his sleeping bag. He carried me through a blizzard when he could barely walk himself. And when I woke up this morning, he was dying of hypothermia because he'd kept me warm all night. My father stopped typing and looked at me. Really looked at me. You walked 8 miles in the snow to get help. For him. He would have done it for me. He did do it for you. The night before. Something in my father's expression shifted. Respect, maybe. Or recognition that his daughter was finally growing up. I'm proud of you, Sophia. The words I'd been desperate to hear my entire life, finally spoken. And all it had taken was nearly dying in a blizzard. Don't be proud yet, I said. I need you to help Elijah. Really help him. Not just pay his medical bills and send him back to living under a bridge. He needs a home, a job, a future. My father nodded. I understand, and I promise you I will make this right. I wasn't allowed to see Elijah for 3 days. Something about needing rest, recovery, observation. But on the fourth day, a nurse finally wheeled me down the hall to his room. He was in a regular hospital room, not a private suite like mine, but he was alive, awake, and looking significantly better than the last time I'd seen him. Princess, he said when I rolled in. Nice wheelchair. Very regal. Shut up. I wheeled myself to his bedside. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck, but alive, so that's progress. He looked uncomfortable suddenly, vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen before. They're saying I can't leave, that someone's paying for my care. Was that you? My father, actually. He wants to meet you. Elijah's expression shuddered. I don't need charity. It's not charity, it's gratitude. You saved his daughter's life. I reached for his hand. Elijah, why did you really help me? And don't give me that passing it on answer. I want the truth. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at our joined hands. When I saw you in that car, you looked how I felt 6 months ago. Alone. Scared, like the world had forgotten you existed. He finally met my eyes. Nobody should feel that way. Nobody should die alone in the cold while the world drives past. So I stopped, because I know what it's like to be invisible, and I saw you. I see you too, I whispered, and I'm not going to let you disappear again. CTA number 2. Elijah had nothing but gave everything to save Sophia. Then Sophia risked her life to save his. Have you ever had someone surprise you with an act of kindness when they had no reason to help you? How did it change your perspective? Drop your story in the comments. My father's version of handling it was characteristically thorough and completely overwhelming. First, he paid all of Elijah's medical bills, not just for the hypothermia, but for years of accumulated health issues from living on the streets. Dental work, vision care, physical therapy, everything. Second, he arranged for Elijah to stay in an extended stay hotel once he was discharged. Private room, meals included, for as long as needed. Third, he showed up at Elijah's hospital room with a lawyer and a stack of documents. I was there when it happened, wheeled in my wheelchair like an honored guest to the most surreal meeting of my life. Mr. Chen, my father said, extending his hand to Elijah, who looked absolutely terrified. I'm Dominic Castellano. I believe you've met my daughter. Sir, Elijah shook his hand awkwardly. I didn't. I wasn't trying to. You saved Sophia's life. There's no debt large enough to repay that, but I'd like to try. My father sat down, all business now. I've looked into your situation. Emancipated minor, no family support, no permanent address. Is that accurate? Yes, sir. How old are you? 19 next month. Education? I got my GED last year, studied at the public library. My father's eyebrows rose. Impressed, I thought. Remarkable. What are your plans for the future? Elijah looked bewildered. I don't, I mean, I was going to try to save up for community college maybe. But honestly, sir, I was mostly focused on surviving the next week. That ends now. My father opened his briefcase and pulled out documents. I'm offering you a job, entry-level position at one of my companies. It comes with salary, benefits, and most importantly, a path forward. You work hard, you advance. Simple as that. Elijah stared at the papers like they might bite him. Why? Because you saved my daughter when you had every reason not to. Because you sacrificed your warmth, your safety, your life for a stranger. Because anyone with that kind of character deserves a chance. My father's voice softened. And because Sophia hasn't stopped talking about you for 4 days, she thinks you're worth investing in, and I've learned to trust her judgment. I felt my face heat. Dad, it's true. He looked at me, then back at Elijah. She walked 8 miles through the snow in your shoes to save you. Do you know how many people would do that? Especially for someone they just met? No, sir. Neither do I. But my daughter did. That tells me you're someone special. Elijah's eyes found mine, and I saw tears threatening. I don't know what to say. Say yes, I urged. Say you'll take the job. Say you'll stop sleeping under bridges. Say you'll let us help you the way you helped me. I'm not a charity case. No, my father interrupted firmly. You're an employee, a valued member of my organization. There's a difference. Charity is money given without expectation. This is an opportunity earned through character. Don't confuse the two. Elijah looked at the contract, then at me, then back at my father. What's the catch? No catch, but there are conditions. My father ticked them off on his fingers. 1. You finish your education. I'll pay for college if you want it, but you have to maintain a 3.0 GPA. 2. You participate in counseling. You've been through trauma. You need to process it properly. 3. You stay in regular contact with Sophia. She's going to worry about you. Ease her mind. That third one's not really a condition, Elijah said, a small smile playing at his lips. That's a reward. I felt my face burn hotter. My father actually laughed. Then we have a deal? Elijah took the pen with shaking hands and signed. Just like that, his entire life changed. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind. Elijah was discharged from the hospital and moved into the extended stay hotel my father had arranged. I was discharged 2 days later and immediately insisted on visiting him. You don't have to check on me every day, Elijah said when I showed up for the 5th day in a row, carrying bags of groceries because I'd noticed his mini fridge was empty. I know I don't have to. I want to. I started unpacking food. Besides, you're my friend. Friends visit each other. Are we friends? He was sitting on the bed, looking uncomfortable in the clean, safe space. Like he didn't quite believe it was real. After everything we went through? Yeah, I think we are. I handed him a sandwich. Eat, you're still too thin. Bossy, you've mentioned. We fell into an easy rhythm. I'd visit, we'd talk. Sometimes we'd just sit in comfortable silence. He told me stories about life on the streets, some funny, most heartbreaking. I told him about boarding schools and empty mansions. We were from completely different worlds, but somehow, in that hotel room, we met in the middle. Can I ask you something? Elijah said one afternoon, about 2 weeks into his new life. Why do you keep coming here? You've got your own life, friends, parties, all that rich kid stuff. That stuff doesn't matter as much as I thought it did. Sophia, you want the real answer? I set down my coffee. Because you're the first person in a long time who sees me. Not my father's daughter, not the credit card, not the trust fund, just me. And I want to know you too. The real you, not just the boy who saved me. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm not that interesting. You survived 2 years on the streets. You taught yourself enough to get a GED. You gave your jacket to a stranger in a blizzard. You're probably the most interesting person I've ever met. You need to meet more people. Maybe, or maybe I just found the right one. The air between us shifted, charged with something unspoken. Elijah looked away first. Your father's going to hate me, he said quietly. Why would he hate you? Because I'm falling for his daughter, and I'm a homeless kid with nothing to offer. My heart stopped. You're not homeless anymore. I'm a formerly homeless kid who's only not homeless because your father gave me a job out of gratitude. That's not exactly the same as earning it. You did earn it by being a good person, by having character. I reached for his hand, and for what it's worth, I'm falling for you too. He looked at our joined hands like they were a miracle. This is a terrible idea. Probably. Your dad's going to fire me. Probably not. He likes you. I have nothing. No money, no family, no prospects beyond what your father's given me. You have you. That's enough. I squeezed his hand. Elijah, I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who had everything and were miserable. You have nothing, and you're grateful for every small kindness. You're real. You're honest. You're brave. That's worth more than any trust fund. Sophia, I'm not saying we have to figure this out right now. I'm just saying, don't disappear on me. Don't decide you're not worth knowing, because you are. You're worth everything. He pulled me into a hug then, sudden and fierce, and I felt him shaking. Thank you, he whispered into my hair, for seeing me, for saving me, for we saved each other. I corrected. That's what we do. But not everyone was happy about our growing connection. Madison, my best friend since boarding school, showed up at my father's mansion a week later, full of opinions. "You're obsessed with this homeless boy," she said, lounging on my bed like she owned it. "It's all you talk about. Elijah this, Elijah that. It's weird, Soph. He's not homeless anymore. And he's my friend. Is that all he is?" She raised an eyebrow. "Because I've seen the way you look when you talk about him. Like he hung the moon. So what if I like him? So he's using you. Can't you see that? Poor boy meets rich girl, plays the hero, gets rewarded with a job and probably a relationship with a billionaire's daughter. It's the oldest con in the book." "It's not a con. How do you know? You met him during a crisis. People bond in extreme situations. It doesn't mean it's real." Madison sat up, her expression softening. "I'm worried about you. This isn't like you. You're usually so careful, so guarded, and now you're all in on some guy you barely know." "I know enough." "Do you? Or do you know the version of him he showed you when he needed saving?" The doubt she planted grew roots. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't help but wonder. Was Elijah using me? Had he seen an opportunity and taken it? Was the connection I felt real, or was I just a lonely rich girl desperate for someone who saw her as more than a bank account? I decided to test it. The next day, I showed up at Elijah's hotel room unannounced. "We need to talk," I said when he opened the door. His face fell. "Those are never good words. What's wrong? Are you using me?" "What?" "My friend said you might be running a con. Poor boy saves rich girl, gets a job and a relationship out of it. Is that what this is?" Elijah looked like I'd slapped him. "Is that what you think?" "I don't know what to think. I barely know you." "You know me." His voice was quiet, hurt. "You know I gave you my jacket when I was freezing. You know I carried you through a blizzard when I could barely walk. You know I was dying of hypothermia because I kept you warm all night. What part of that sounds like a con? The part where you end up with a job and a rich girlfriend. I didn't ask for the job. Your father offered. And I didn't know you were rich when I helped you. I just saw someone who needed help." He stepped back, creating distance between us. "But you know what? Maybe your friend's right. Maybe this is too complicated. Maybe I should just—" "Don't." I grabbed his hand. "Don't pull away. I'm sorry. I've been burned before. People who wanted my money, not me. And I'm scared this is that again." "It's not." He pulled me close, his voice fierce. "Sophia, I'd give back the job, the hotel, everything your father's done for me if it meant you'd believe I'm here for you. Just you. Not your money. Not your connections. You. You mean that? I'd go back to living under that bridge if it meant you trusted me." I believed him. Maybe I was a fool, but I believed him. "Don't go back to the bridge," I whispered. "Stay, please." "Always," he promised. "I'll always stay." The real test came 6 weeks after the blizzard, when my father announced he was throwing a charity gala, black tie, New York City, all of high society in attendance. "I want you there," he told me over breakfast, "and I want you to bring Elijah." I almost choked on my orange juice. "What?" "You heard me. He saved your life. The least we can do is introduce him properly to society." My father's expression was unreadable. "Unless you're ashamed of him?" "I'm not ashamed." "Then bring him. Let people see who he is, what he did. Let them understand that character isn't about bank accounts." I found continued Elijah at his new apartment. My father had upgraded him from the hotel to a modest but nice one-bedroom in Hartford. He'd started at Castellano Industries the week before, working in the mailroom and loving every minute of it. "A gala?" He looked terrified. "Sophia, I've never, I don't even own a suit." "We'll get you one. My father's insisting. He wants to show you off." "Why? I'm nobody." "You're the person who saved his daughter's life. You're someone." I took his hands. "I know this is overwhelming, but I'll be there. We'll face it together. I don't belong in that world. Neither do I half the time. But we'll figure it out." The gala was everything I'd expected. Opulent, excessive, full of people wearing more money than most families earned in a year. Elijah looked like he wanted to bolt the second we walked in. He looked incredible in his new suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, transforming him from street kid to sophisticated young man. But his eyes gave him away, darting around the room like he was calculating escape routes. "Breathe," I whispered, linking my arm through his. "You've got this. I've faced blizzards less terrifying than this room. At least no one here will give you hypothermia. Don't be so sure. Some of these people look cold-blooded." I laughed and some of the tension broke. My father found us quickly, bringing us to the center of the ballroom. He tapped a microphone, and the room quieted. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight to support the Castellano Foundation's initiatives for homeless youth." Murmurs of approval. "Many of you know my daughter, Sophia. What you might not know is that 6 weeks ago, she nearly died in a blizzard." The room gasped. I felt Elijah tense beside me. "She survived because of this young man." My father gestured to Elijah. Elijah Chen was homeless at the time, living under a bridge. He had nothing, no money, no resources, barely enough to survive himself. And when he found my daughter trapped in her car, he gave her his jacket, carried her through the storm, kept her warm through the night at the cost of his own health. The room was silent, everyone staring at Elijah. Elijah nearly died saving Sophia, and then when she woke up the next morning and realized he was dying of hypothermia, she walked 8 miles through the snow in his shoes to get help. Two people from different worlds, saving each other. My father's voice grew thick with emotion. "We talk a lot tonight about helping the homeless, about charity, about giving back. But Elijah reminded me that homelessness doesn't define a person's character. He had nothing, but he gave everything. That's the kind of person we should be investing in." He turned to Elijah directly. "You saved my daughter. You gave me back the most important thing in my life. There's no debt large enough to repay that. But tonight, I'm announcing the Elijah Chen Scholarship Fund, a program to provide education, job training, and housing support for homeless youth who demonstrate the kind of character and resilience Elijah showed. Because if we can invest in people like him, we can change the world." The room erupted in applause. Elijah looked shell-shocked. "Sir," he managed, I can't. "You can, and you will." My father smiled. "You're going to help me build this program. Use your experience to make sure we do it right. Are you in?" Elijah looked at me, tears in his eyes. I nodded. "I'm in," he whispered, but not everyone was celebrating. Later that night, I overheard a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. "It's a publicity stunt," a woman in diamonds said to her companion. "Dominic's trying to rehab his image after that labor dispute last year. What better way than championing a homeless hero? And the daughter's dating him, did you see? How long before that crashes and burns? She's slumming, playing out some rescue fantasy. Give it 3 months, she'll get bored. He'll realize he's out of his depth, and it'll all fall apart. Poor kid's being used and doesn't even know it." I felt sick. Was that what people thought? That this was all some game? That Elijah was a prop in my father's PR machine? I found Elijah on the balcony, looking out over the city. "You okay?" I asked. "People are staring, whispering. Let them. Easy for you to say. You're used to it." He turned to me. "Your dad just announced a scholarship fund in my name. That's Sophia, that's insane. I don't deserve that." "You absolutely deserve it. I was just trying not to let someone freeze to death. That's basic human decency, not heroism. Basic human decency is rare. That's the whole point." I took his hand. "You showed me that people with nothing can still give everything. That wealth isn't about money. You changed my whole perspective on life. Sophia, I love you." The words came out before I could stop them. "I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. But I love you. Not because you saved my life. Because of who you are. How you see the world. How you see me." He looked at me like I'd handed him the sun. "I love you too. I've loved you since you walked 8 miles in my two big shoes to save me. Since you burned your expensive purse to keep me warm. Since you refused to let me disappear." He kissed me then, in front of the party, in front of everyone, and I didn't care who was watching or what they thought. This was real. This was right. When we broke apart, I saw my father standing in the doorway, smiling. 6 months later, I walked into the Castellano Foundation's new headquarters, a building dedicated entirely to the Elijah Chen Scholarship Program. Elijah stood in the lobby, reviewing applications with a social worker, and I marveled at the transformation. He'd put on healthy weight. His hair was professionally cut. He wore business casual like he'd been born to it. But more than the physical changes, there was a confidence in him now, the bearing of someone who knew his worth. "Hey, princess," he said when he saw me, that familiar smile lighting up his face. "Come to check on your charity case?" "You're not a charity case. You're the program director. There's a difference. Your dad keeps reminding me." He pulled me into a hug. "We got 15 new applicants today. Good kids with hard stories. We're going to change their lives. You already are." We walked through the building together. Classrooms for GED prep, job training facilities, a housing coordinator's office, counseling services. Everything Elijah had needed and more, now available to hundreds of young people. "You know what's wild?" Elijah said as we stood in a classroom. "6 months ago, I was sleeping under a bridge. Now I'm helping kids who were where I was. If someone had told me this was possible, you wouldn't have believed them." "Not for a second." He turned to me. "Thank you for everything. You saved me first. We saved each other. That's kind of our thing." In the corner of the room, I noticed a familiar orange sleeping bag displayed in a glass case, with a plaque beneath it. This sleeping bag saved 2 lives during a blizzard. It represents the power of generosity, courage, and the simple act of seeing each other's humanity. "You kept it?" I asked. "Of course. That's where we became us." He pulled me close. "That's where a rich girl and a homeless boy figured out that none of the labels mattered. We're just 2 people who refused to give up on each other." The scholarship program thrived. Within a year, we'd housed 47 young people and helped 63 get their GEDs. Within 2 years, the program expanded to 5 cities. Elijah became the face of it, speaking at schools, conferences, fundraisers, telling his story not for sympathy, but to show what was possible, to prove that circumstances didn't define potential. My father and I grew closer too. He'd cut back his schedule, spending more time present in my life. We had dinner together twice a week, real conversations, not just business updates. He'd learned that presence mattered more than presence. "I'm proud of you," he told me one evening over pasta, "not just for surviving the blizzard, for everything after, for fighting for Elijah, for using your privilege to create change. I learned it from you. Eventually," he smiled, "better late than never." As for Elijah and me, we defied every prediction. We didn't crash and burn. We didn't fall apart when the novelty wore off. We built something real, grounded in mutual respect and genuine love. 2 years after the blizzard, Elijah graduated from community college with honors. My father attended, sitting beside me in the front row, both of us embarrassingly loud with our applause. "What's next?" I asked Elijah afterward. As we celebrated at a restaurant that wasn't fast food, a big deal for him. "I got accepted to Hartford University, full ride, business degree." He looked almost shy. "Thought I'd learn how to run the foundation properly, make it sustainable long term." "That's incredible. There's something else." He pulled out a small box, and my heart stopped. "I know it's fast. I know I'm still technically getting my life together. But Sophia, you've been my partner in everything for 2 years. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You fought for me. You've stood beside me through every step of this journey." He opened the box to reveal a simple but beautiful ring, not expensive by my family's standards, but perfect because he'd chosen it himself. "Will you marry me?" "Not now. We're too young. We both know that. But someday, when we're ready, will you build a life with me?" I was crying, ugly crying, not caring that the entire restaurant was watching. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." He slipped the ring on my finger and it fit perfectly, like everything about us. It shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. 5 years later, I stood in the lobby of the expanded Castellano Foundation headquarters, watching Elijah teach a group of newly housed youth about job interview skills. He was 26 now, confident and competent, running a program that had helped over 500 young people rebuild their lives. We'd gotten married a year ago, small ceremony, mostly family and the kids from the program. My father had walked me down the aisle, tears streaming down his face, proud of the woman I'd become and the man I'd chosen. The foundation had expanded beyond just housing and education. We now offered mental health services, addiction counseling, job placement, and most importantly, a community. Because that's what Elijah had taught me. People don't just need resources. They need to be seen, to matter, to belong. Mrs. Chen, a young girl, approached me, 16, recently housed through our program. Is it true you were homeless too? No, I was never homeless, but I was lost. And Elijah helped me find my way. How? He showed me that wealth isn't about money. It's about how you treat people when they have nothing to offer you. It's about seeing someone's humanity even when society's decided they're invisible. I smiled at her. You're not invisible. You matter. And we're going to help you build the life you deserve. She hugged me, and I saw Elijah watching from across the room, his expression full of pride and love. That night as we drove home to our modest house, my father had offered to buy us a mansion. We politely declined. Elijah reached for my hand. Do you ever regret it, he asked, choosing this life instead of the country clubs and charity galas? Not for a second. This is real. Those parties were just expensive pretend. Even when you're married to a former homeless kid who still can't believe he's allowed to use the nice towels? Especially then, I squeezed his hand. You gave me your jacket in a blizzard when you had nothing else. You taught me what real wealth looks like. I'm the lucky one here. We're both lucky. We found each other. We saved each other. That's kind of our thing, he said, echoing words from years ago. I leaned my head on his shoulder, watching the city lights blur past, thinking about the girl I used to be. Lost, lonely, measuring worth in dollars and designer labels. And the woman I'd become, still figuring it out, still making mistakes, but grounded in something real. A homeless boy had given me everything by giving me nothing but his humanity, and in return, I'd given him the same. Not my money or my name or my connections, but my authentic self, my trust, my love. We'd both been freezing in different ways that night in the blizzard, and we'd saved each other by sharing warmth, sharing truth, sharing the radical act of seeing each other fully. The world still had problems. There were still thousands of young people living under bridges, invisible to a society that had decided they didn't matter. But we were changing that, one person at a time, because we knew something most people forgot. Everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone deserves a chance. And sometimes the person with nothing to give can teach you everything about what really matters. 10 years later, the elementary school auditorium was packed with students, teachers, and parents waiting for career day to begin. Elijah adjusted his tie nervously. You've spoken to thousands of people, I reminded him. This is just a bunch of 8-year-olds. 8-year-olds are terrifying. They ask the hard questions, then answer honestly. It's what you always do. He walked onto the stage, and a little girl in the front row raised her hand immediately. Yes? Elijah called on her. Is it true you used to be homeless? It is. For 2 years, I lived under a bridge. Were you scared? Every day. I was cold and hungry and alone, but I survived because kind people helped me when they didn't have to. Like who? Like a restaurant worker who brought me food. Like librarians who let me study even though I smelled bad. Like a girl stuck in a blizzard who I helped, and who then walked 8 miles in the snow to save me when I was dying. Is that girl your wife? Another child asked. Elijah smiled. Yes, that's my wife. So you saved each other. We did, and that's what I want you to remember. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, young or old. What matters is that you see each other, that you help when you can, that you remember everyone has a story and everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. A boy raised his hand. Can anyone change their life, even if they start with nothing? Elijah looked out at the audience and found me standing in the back, holding our daughter, 3 years old, named Claire, after the woman who'd given him that first act of kindness years ago. Yes, he said firmly, anyone can change their life, but here's the secret. You don't have to do it alone. Find people who see you, who believe in you, who refuse to give up on you even when things are hard. That's how you survive. That's how you thrive. That's how a homeless kid becomes someone standing here, telling you that your circumstances don't define your future. Your character does. The auditorium erupted in applause. Later, as we walked to our car, Claire asleep in my arms, Elijah asked, "Did I do okay?" "You were perfect, but then you always are." "Liar, but I love you for it." "I love you too." "To the moon and back through a blizzard." He laughed, pulling us both close. "And back again." We drove home through light snow, nothing like that blizzard 10 years ago, but enough to make me remember. Remember the girl who'd nearly frozen because she didn't know how to survive without money. Remember the boy who'd saved her by giving away everything he had. Remember two people finding each other in the cold and choosing over and over again to keep each other warm. The world was still complicated. There were still inequalities to fight, systems to change, people to help, but we were in it together, building a life, raising a daughter, running a foundation, and proving every day that love wasn't about what you had. It was about what you gave, even when you had nothing, especially then. This story shows that real wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in character, compassion, and courage. Have you ever given something you couldn't afford to give or received help from someone who had nothing to spare? How did that moment change you? Share your story below. Your words might inspire someone who needs to hear them today.